Goran, how's it going?
Good,
Glad
how
to
are you?
have you here. Glad to have you on the Expert Circle podcast here. And learn about, Goran's lawn care and trees
Yes,
out
sir.
of Inverness, Florida.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir. Glad to
yeah,
be here.
was just saying on Google Maps, you guys got some really cool waterways and kind of, are those like swamps, all those
No, actually, they're lakes. They're lakes and rivers,
lakes and rivers?
streams. We got the Homosassa River. We got the Withlacoochee River. Um, amongst other waterways like Lake Henderson, Lake Hernando. Um, not, and then you got the Gulf of America and everything else. So,
Okay, so you got what are those trees that grow like in the water? What are those called? I'm here in California, so this is like so foreign to me.
they there's so there. I believe they're called mangroves. I'm
Yeah.
originally from Chicago.
Hmm.
So I can't really, if I botch something, from somebody from Florida might kill me down here.
Used to be in the mafia in Chicago, and now he moved down there because that's where he dumps his bodies. We were just talking about that.
Well, ironically, I grew up in Cicero, which was Al Capone's stomping grounds.
Oh wow.
He, yeah, him and his crew. They used to hang out. In Cicero, actually, on 20, I believe on 24th and Austin Boulevard. There was used to be his house, and
Mhm.
it is said, like, I don't know how much of this is true, but it is said that there's underground tunnels connecting, the different businesses and different houses that he had out in the area.
Yep, yep. Is there a very kind of like I know in a lot of these places that have the natural um, wildlife features that you do with those kind of waterways, kind of a big sense of I don't know self independence. People like, hey, I'm doing my thing, and there's a lot of privacy there, and
Yeah, I mean, it all depends. It all depends. Like, we've been here for, let's see, in October. We moved in October 1st.
okay,
And in October 1st will be 5 years how we've been in this house.
okay,
How we've been down in Florida. Our neighborhood is very, very quiet.
uh
I
huh,
mean, and you got gopher turtles and roam in the area. I've seen turkeys here. I've seen deer. I've seen snakes. I mean,
yep,
just a wide array. So where I am actually is I'm in the unincorporated part of Inverness,
hmm,
but 4 blocks from here, you're in within city limits. So
okay,
I got all the amenities of being in the city, but
yep,
being out in like a country area.
yeah, cool. Any clients ever get you to wrestle alligator? Or, no.
No, no, actually, the FWC down here, they got a guy. He used to have a game processing um, facility up in like Lake Russo, Crystal River area. And I actually got to meet him because I ended up buying a couple of wild pigs from off of him.
Yep.
Um, but he turned he actually became a FWC, and he was their first call for nuisance alligators.
Oh wow. Yeah. It's a whole nother ecosystem down there. Okay, we're
Yeah,
getting off the rails here. Tell me how you got started in the business, and yeah, how's it
all
going
right.
with your
Well,
practice? Love to hear your journey, the struggles, challenges, lessons, and yeah.
right. So I actually started my business about 4 years ago. Previous to that, I was in logistics for about 22 years
Hmm.
between over the road truck driving and, being a broker, um, being a dispatcher for big trucking companies, dealing with expedited freight and flatbeds and reefers and so on and so forth. Um, And it got to the point where, I was always on the phone. I work 10 hours a day, then I'm on the phone during dinner because, expedited freight, you got, high clientele that wants to know where their freight is at all times. Or we got to book a truck, or the truck never showed up, or something like that. So it got to the point where, I couldn't go, I was working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And
Yep.
I couldn't go to the beach with my family and enjoy my day without being, a phone plastered up to my ear. So it got to the point where I was just like, I'm done with it. I've
Yep.
had it, you know. Um, and then so I started Ubering for a little bit, and believe it or not, that's how I got into, um, that's how I did a lot of my beginning advertising.
Okay. Huh.
Um, so about a month after I quit my job as a broker, um, I was doing Uber, and I'm like, you know what, I need to go, grab another lawnmower for my house and whatnot. So I decided to get a riding mower, and that's actually how I started. About uh, 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in my backyard, riding my mower, cutting my own grass and whatnot. And I'm like, what? I could get used to this. This is easy and whatnot. And being down in Florida, you know, me coming from the Midwest, me just like everybody else thinks Florida is always green,
Yep.
and grass is always growing and whatnot. Um, so I thought, I'm like, hey, I could do this. I could definitely get used to doing this. So I went between a $250 riding mower, and I went and found a Echo SRM 210 weed eater. That's how I started my business. My mother-in-law, she ended up fronting me about $40 to get my business cards, and I was, when I'm doing Ubering around town here, I was just, hey, you're in town, here's my business card. I'll come out, even out to Leesburg and whatnot. So that's how everything started. I started getting phone calls, and here I am today.
So utilizing your natural strengths. I mean, you came from sales. You're a personable guy,
Correct. Correct.
Um,
Correct.
and so, yeah. So I think leaning on, I think there's not one way to skin a cat. And so, yes, cool
Right.
to hear.
I used everything that I learned in as a broker, to give me that drive, to give me that push, how to deal with clients, when to actually try to call their, when to actually call their bluff and whatnot. And it's definitely a great skill that I learned doing that I can actually, now thinking about it, I can turn around and use that on so many different levels. And really I do.
What are some of those sales skills that you have that you maybe take for granted and don't even realize that that's unique and a superpower that maybe some other guys don't
Just
utilize?
so what do I do? So what I do is I get to know the customer before I do anything. I'll sit there for a few minutes. Um, when they call me out for an estimate, I'll sit there for a few minutes, get to know them, get to know their family, get to know who their cats and dogs are. You know what I mean? Just so that way they don't think that they're just a number with my company. I build my whole company off of, um, being more of a friend and a family member than just being a client. And 99% of my 99% of my customers, they um, they I know everybody's dog. I've mowed every property myself personally,
Yep.
because
Yep.
if there's a new property on site, that we get added to our um, routes, I will go out and I will meet up with my guys, and I will personally mow that property, so that way I know what the whole property entails.
Yep. Yep. Um, and you do mainly lawn care. What's your split between lawn care? Do you do some tree services as well?
I do. I am a full tree service as well. I know a lot of guys are going to frown upon this, but I've never climbed a tree in my life. um, I actually, again, used my means of being a broker and, to round up guys to work for me, because, we were supposed to have a tree job today, but it rained out today. So we didn't go. But, the guy that I'm working with, he's been in the industry for 36 years this year. So
Yep.
he knows the ins and outs. And I
Yep.
straight up told him, I says, you know what? I'm not going to be around the bush. I'm here. I have clients asking me for tree work. I'd like to get
Yep.
into this. And let's work together. You help me and I'll help you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's been doing it for, like I said, about 36 years. That's my
He's got his own practice and business, but he works with you on the side.
No, he doesn't have his own business. He started with Davey and Ashland. He talks about Davey quite a bit. He worked with those companies, so he knows the ins and outs of what needs to be. And he chooses not to have his own company just because of the overhead and the headaches and everything else. Just like me, I'm this. I could turn around and I could be the sales guy. He could do the work. You know what I mean? So it's like not everybody's a salesperson.
Yeah. And you're able to keep him busy down there because it's kind of not probably super seasonal down there with you guys weather-wise, I imagine.
Well, tree work this year is actually picking up. I've done about 1 or 2 tree jobs a week since the beginning of the year. So, but last year was horrible. I mean, no hurricanes, no real rains and whatnot. So it was just a bad year for everybody down here, including any landscaper. Actually, it was super dry. Without having rain, there's not really much you can mow. I mean, right now, or if you looked in my backyard, it's all dead. It looks all dead. But then we've also had frigid weather. We've had in the 20s for the last couple weeks at night, and even today it started out this morning. It was 60 degrees and it dropped down to like 52 degrees by noon, and then it dropped even lower than that. And then around 3:00 it was back up to 55 degrees.
Yep. So is lawn care, tree stuff more scalable? Where do you see the future of your business going, and how do you balance those two?
Well, it's definitely going to be around forever down here. Citrus County in particular, amongst other counties here in Florida, they're booming, building houses left and right. So is there going to be there's companies being opened up left and right, people having their own lawn care and business and whatnot. There's plenty of work for everybody. And the balance between lawn care and tree work, currently it's to the point where, if I get a tree job, I'm not relying on that, but I'll turn around, I'm relying on the lawn care. If I get a tree job, I look at that as a bonus. But eventually, I mean, in the near future, and when I say near, I'm talking about in the next, I want to say year or two, I'm going to have a special crew just to do the lawns and a separate crew just doing the tree work.
Cool. Lawn care work is great. It's pretty scalable. It's obviously smaller tickets, but recurring business, and you got people on automatic credit card kind of recurring every 2 weeks, or what's your cadence on those guys?
Well, I use a program called the Yard Books. It's a free program. And it's quite, for it being free, it's really quite lucrative part of a business to have. It makes invoicing easy to use, recurring invoicing. Emails go out. The invoices, they come in and they turn around. You set them up on a recurring invoice. They'll turn around and they'll generate a day or two before you need them. and then you got
Sure.
like a day or two just to review them or add, make some changes or whatnot. Hit a button
Yep.
and go and go. Um, you know, with that, um, you know, but what was I gonna say? I'm sorry.
Oh no, we
Um,
were just talking about kind of scaling up,
yeah, yeah.
and
So with that being with yard books, it helped out make the small guy, be look like a professional company right off the
Mhm.
bat. You're not running, you're not taking paper receipts and writing down and whatnot. Um, and with that, people were like, hey, this is the legitimate business. So they turned around and, word of mouth is does wonders down here. With the internet, you can figure out who's a fly by night company,
Mhm.
as well as, um, who's here for the long run. With me being in the business for almost, going on 4 years this year,
Yep.
we turned around and started our business last year we started with 28 clients in the beginning of the year. By the time December 1st hit, we had 79 clients.
Wow, that's awesome.
So is it going to be scalable? Absolutely. I'm looking on doubling my clientele this year as well.
Yep.
um, the key behind everything obviously is having a good crew that you can rely on.
Yep. Yep. That's pretty cool. Um, and you're just, everybody you talk with. I know you're a people person, so you're, getting clients that way, and then word of mouth. And what are those interactions looking like to get new clients and grow so fast?
I mean, it's mostly word of mouth. I'm on Google, I'm on Yelp, Facebook. My wife actually, she does a lot. We're part of every Citrus County page, Inverness page, Lecanto page,
Nice.
Crystal River page there is. And every time, my wife, she'll see somebody looking for lawn care or tree care. I mean, we've actually even done other work like, just low key, like, um, floor installing and just like that, just to keep my guys busy during the winter. But she's actually, does a lot for the business because she'll sit there, she'll throw a business card out,
Yep.
license insured, great, um, great reviews and free estimates and whatnot. So she does a lot about that. That helps.
That's awesome.
As well as I've also sponsored my youngest son's school, their PTO, and
Mhm.
so in return, they put a banner out on the corner, of their on their chain link fence with,
Yep.
your business. So that helps out a lot. That I'm on a one of the major intersections here in Citrus County.
Wow. Very cool. Very interesting. Yeah, lawn care is such an interesting, cool business. It makes me think like, yeah, if you guys could just get like everybody on a street too, and you just go to one house to the other, you say, hey, we're doing a program where if we get 5 people on your street, everybody gets a 20% discount or something.
That's a good idea, but down here, I think that's what really separates me. Plus, I know if I actually have, there's a neighborhood. It's called the Villages 5 area.
Mhm.
I have about 6 clients within like 3 streets,
Yep.
and my guys, as much as they like doing that, they kind of like the break, especially when it's like 80, 90 degree outside with, a
Yep.
90% humidity. They like being in the truck for a little bit and traveling across town to get cooled down a little bit. So, um,
Sense.
but, but I mean, that's the only area really that I have a compacted amount of,
Yeah.
houses to do.
Yep. Yep. So you've been in business for how long did you say?
Going on 4 years this year.
4 years. Okay. And so what are some of the biggest challenges you faced so far? And up to this point, would you say?
So the one of the biggest challenges is obviously getting your first client, doing a good job to where they turn around and recommend you to somebody else. That's a big challenge down here.
Yep.
Um, a lot of people. There's a whole bunch, a second, or there's a lot of small companies out here,
Hmm.
which we all call fly by night companies. They'll come in, they'll undercut the licensed and insured guy by like $25-$30 per cut.
Yep.
Where me as, let's say, a licensed and insured company, a decent sized company, I should say, for an acre, I'll charge roughly about $100 to $125. He'll do it for $45 just to get,
Yep.
just to, just to get a little bit in his pocket.
Sure.
That, getting people to take your service as opposed to them,
Hmm.
that was a big challenge, as well as obviously, um, getting a crew that you can rely on,
Yep.
that's going to do the job right. Where you have minimal issues with the client, especially like me. Like I told you, there's not a property that I haven't cut. So, having a guy that I could rely on, say, hey, this is how this is supposed to be. I don't care what else is done, but this is how I want it. And for them
Yep.
to actually turn around and do it that way, that was a
Yep.
hard, that's hard.
You're
As
setting
well.
the dirty, leading by example, going in and modeling what it should look like, which is huge.
Correct. Correct. As well as, when I first started and this is how I got into the tree part of it.
Yep.
Um, one of my neighbors right around the corner, it'll, he's no longer there, but, I had a client call me and say, hey, I need about 22 trees cut down. Okay. We go out there, give him an estimate. I give him a pretty decent estimate. He turns around and I'm like, hey, you want to do some work? You want to work together? Sure. We go over there, and he asked me, he's like, do you want to help me on this job? Sure. I got a saw, I got chainsaws and whatnot. Let's go ahead and do this. So
Okay.
I go over there and, we do the job. We drop everything. We start cleanup, and it was like a subcontracting thing. Like, hey, this is what I got you the job. You deal with, everything else like it's supposed to be. And he turns around and somehow gets in touch with the customer.
Hmm.
Customer showed up while I guess he was cleaning up or whatnot. He told the customer that I never paid him
Oh
after I
my
already
God.
after I already paid him. I have receipts,
Yep.
and the customer turned around because they paid the invoice through Goran's Lawncare. They recanted their credit card, so I lost like a $7,200,
Wow.
the $7,200 job, and then
Yep.
he turned around and got paid twice for it.
Crazy. That's
So,
nuts.
being able to rely on somebody, to trust somebody,
Yep.
is that's another issue down here. Nobody wants to work as a team,
Hmm.
or not even so much a partnership. Like, they'll look at like, oh, Goran's Lawn Care, I'm not going to go do work with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though you don't know me. And they'll, that's the biggest issue down here,
Yep.
is,
Yep.
and that's what pushed me over the edge. I'm like, okay, that guy maybe it was a fluke.
Yep.
Turn around, I got another call. I called another company down here, a well known company at that, um, to go doing a couple estimates with me, and he's like, yeah, sure, let's go. Let's do this. And we gave the estimates, his insurance, his everything, and the customer messages me saying, hey, I need a copy of the insurance, which I understand. I messaged the guy. I'm like, hey, the customer needs a copy of the insurance. Okay, I'll get it to him. I'll get it to him. A week later, I'm still getting it to him, to find out he never had insurance.
Wow. Yeah.
So, you know, and that
Yep.
and that was the final straw, on me subbing out work. It got to the
Yep.
point where I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna go get a couple saws, and
Yep.
what I can do, I'll take. What I can't do, I'll tell them I'm not big enough for that.
Yep.
Just being 100% honest with customers,
Yeah.
and that, hey, this is too big of a job for me to do.
Yep.
Please find somebody else. Which
Yep.
a lot of guys have a hard time, pushing off work.
Yep.
Where
Yep.
in the long run, you push off work like that, and you won't work out of your means. You can turn around and make lifelong friends and clientele
Yep.
because you were so honest.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and I interviewed another guy a couple days ago, and he just does citrus trees. And that
Okay.
he got a ladder. He doesn't need a truck or boom.
Right.
And he's in there sawing, and he's like, man, my profits margins are huge. He just takes jobs for himself
Right.
and does really well. And so it's maybe sexy in some ways to, oh, I
Yeah.
offer all this and I got all this crazy
Yeah.
equipment. There's this kind of creep project, scope creep, and you have to have
Right.
more team and all this stuff. So I think keeping it simple, knowing, having that awareness, and being able to say no, is huge. So yeah.
Right. Right. And that's a lot of, and then, by guys that, bite off more than they can chew, is where, you go on YouTube and you see these companies where they're, and everybody's got to start somewhere. I mean, everybody, I want to say 9 out of 10 people out there, start a tree, cutting trees with a ladder and a little chainsaw,
Yep.
and but getting to the point where you're cutting down, a 40, 30, 40 foot oak tree, and then it dropping on a house. That's because you bit off more than you can handle. Now,
Yep.
granted, accidents do happen, but to the point where how we're looking at, some of these videos out here, that's just, not thinking.
Sure.
Like I
Sure.
said, biting off more than you can chew.
Yeah. And then you say, hey, I can't do this job. You sub it out to another, you give it to another company, and now you have a nice referral, relationship possibly. So yeah,
Right.
yeah, very cool.
Or I mean, you just go on review, on Google. Google's, that's the language of today. You go
Yep.
on Google, you find out reviews, call the company, call the, talk to the owner, say, hey, this is what I'm so and so from this company. you
Yep.
know I have clients that are looking for, tree work, or no matter what, like, like, building decks and stuff like that. I got people asking me all the time,
Yep.
but I won't touch that, because
Yep.
I know for myself, not being in that industry on a daily basis, I know for myself that, I'm not going to provide the quality, of product. The final product is not going to be as so much of a quality, and the how it looks, as
Mhm.
somebody that's in that same trade on a daily basis, for the last 20, 30 years.
Yep.
So,
When would you think? So being someone that's kind of really good at sales, when would you think about just referring that job out, or subbing it out and being the GC kind of, over the job?
well,
Push that.
so what I mean, usually I'll go out and I'll at least get an estimate. I'll at least go out there and meet up with the client. Networking. No matter what, even if I walk away and not getting a customer, or at least my name was out there.
Yep.
You know, I'll go out. I'll find out exactly what the customer wants. Then I'll turn around and see, is this something, I'll analyze to myself, is this something that I can handle, that I can
Yep.
tackle, or is this something that I just pass on to somebody else?
Yep.
There are a couple guys that I'm already working with here in Citrus that I can actually rely on. Say, hey, pick up a phone, give them a call, say, hey, you know what, I go to this house. They need an estimate. And, you, 9 times out of 10, I don't even have to say, hey, don't forget to, add a little bit for me or something like that. They'll just be like, hey, you gave me a $6,000 job. Here's $200-300. I'm not
Yep.
greedy. That's not my thing. But if I can help somebody make a buck, why not help?
Yep. Yep. Um, so developing relationships with your clients, doing the work first, knowing, the property, what needs to be done, setting those standards, what else is kind of your calling card, would you say, or what's your focus on to, differentiate yourself from other guys?
Communication. Guys down here, and not even just down here. I've with being in the trucking industry, it's all across the United States, all across the whole North America. I should say, communication is key. I can guarantee you that any one of my clients, any one of my customers, they message me. If it's in the middle of the night, I won't
Yep.
answer. But they
Yep.
know by 8 a.m.
Yep.
they're getting a text message, a phone call, or something. Um, and that's what really sets me apart from everybody else is the communication. Hey, even when I'm doing, like, let's say, a tree job, I one of my customers is the Denellen Historical Society. We dropped a couple of palm trees a couple weeks ago, and even in between, like, hey, we here take a snapshot, you know, um, of the work that you're doing as you're doing it, shooting them a message. It only takes a couple seconds, and that way they can see, you're the man of you're a man of your word, that you're doing what you say. B, they can see the work is being done, and not
Yep.
just like, they don't have to babysit,
Sure.
and just by that really sets me apart from everybody else.
Yep.
Um, as well as, even if it's just, hey, I'm on the mower right now. Can you shoot me a text message with your address, and your name, and as soon as I'm done with here, I'll give you a call and I can come out and do an estimate, whatnot.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and a lot of guys, they'll get that message or they'll get that phone call and just not return a phone call, or
Yep.
they'll schedule an appointment with them to do an estimate and just never show up.
Yep. Yep. No, that makes sense. Uh, and still that communication, you're enjoying it more than your previous sales position. Is not as crazy. You're not as
Well,
married to the phone, or you're still in the
no,
phone a lot.
it's definitely not as crazy. Because back in the last sales position, you're dealing with the client, you're dealing with the trucking company, and then you're dealing with the driver, and sometimes you're even dealing with, like, the freight forwarder. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yep.
you're dealing with 4 people. So one shipment, you could potentially be talking for 4 or 5 hours at a
Wow.
time, and especially if the driver is not communicating, doesn't want to answer their phone, or because with expedited freight, it's more of, hey, I need updates 24 hours a day,
Okay.
because it's a lot of auto parts that we're
Yep.
going across the United States and whatnot.
Yep.
So they need to know where their freight is at all times, just so that way they can schedule deliveries and pickups and whatnot.
It's kind
Um,
of high pressure OCD type of
yeah,
environment. Yeah.
yeah, very.
Yeah.
And this is a lot more laid back. Um, you just listen to the client. If there's an issue, you listen to the customer. Say, find out what the issue is. Do your best to talk to your guys. Or even yourself. If I can't tell you how many times I've had, just wanted to go out just to reassure the customer that things are going to be handled the correct way, as opposed to just, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll take care of it and put them off. So,
Yeah.
um,
A little bit of care and actually follow through, and yeah. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, just having to pick up that phone, getting a phone call,
Yep.
calling your guys. In my case, I pick up the phone, call my guys, and then they turn around and they'll take care of it. Well, or I'll have them turn around just because they missed a spot or something like that.
Yep.
All depends on the situation and how I handle it with the client. If they want me the guys to turn around, or if they just 9 times out of 10, because they know I'll take care of business.
Yeah.
They'll turn around. They'll just say, just have the guys do it next week, or in 2 weeks or whatever.
Circling back to some of the marketing your wife's doing on some of these, pages, what if someone's in XYZ city, America, what would you recommend them searching for, and how would they approach something like that if they wanted to get a little bit of publicity?
Um, I mean, for publicity, your local pages are key. That there's another app called Nextdoor. Um, that just putting your name out there every now and then. It's not even advertising on a daily basis or whatnot. Just having your name thrown out there when somebody asks for it, or
Yep.
hey, I'll sit there and, like, sometimes I'm up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and can't sleep, um, just because I'm an insomniac. So I'll sit there and I'll see somebody wanting lawn care. Hey, give me a call. They like it when they're dealing with the head of the company, as
And these
opposed to,
these are people that are asking and saying, "Hi, I'm having an issue," and you're responding, or
yeah.
you're not saying
Mhm.
like, "Hey, everybody, I do lawn care. Let me know if you need help." You're like actually engaging and
Yeah.
responding to questions.
Correct. I'm actually engaging, responding into their needs. Most 9 times out of 10, they'll post up, "Hey, I'm looking for a lawn guy," or I'm looking to get rid of some trees or some brush, or do some brush hogging and whatnot. I mean, we do it all. Um, and just engaging with the customer on a personal basis, as opposed to, hey, just call this guy, or if somebody asks for recommendations, I can tell them, hey, I got 5 stars Google rating. Here's my card. Here's my a link to my Facebook page,
Yep.
so that way they can see the work. And actually updating your Facebook page regularly, that's another key to advertising, so people know that you're doing recent work, as opposed to just doing uploading pictures back once, 4 or 5 years ago.
Sure. Sure. Yep. Yep. And your goals for the business? You're looking to maybe get some more teams and scale this thing up. What are your goals here? I know
Yes.
big moment. You're able to take the family on vacation to the
Yeah.
homeland in Serbia, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to visit Serbia really bad. So congrats on that milestone.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
and what does the future of the business look like for you?
So right before Christmas, we ended up purchasing the property right next door. And I'm in the process of linking the two properties together, so that way I
Mhm.
could build a pole barn, with the shop that I need. I do a lot of my own maintenance. If there's something that I don't feel comfortable doing, like ripping apart a block for a mower. Um, Me not knowing what I'm doing can probably take about 3 or 4 weeks for me to get that mower back up and running. Where I could just pay $1,000 or something like that, take it to the dealership, and they fix it for whatever, and be up back up and running within a week.
Yep.
Um, but I'm looking at, we ended up purchasing the property. I'm going to be building a shop, a two bay shop in there, with a car lift in there, so that way I can do maintenance on my do my own oil changes on the trucks and whatnot. Another big thing that I did last year was I picked up a 10-yard dump trailer, that helps out with a lot of the work, actually, and it opens up the scope of work that you're doing. um, you know Even if it's just delivering rock to a company, or mulch, or something, people that will take you up on it if you're a reasonable price. I mean, I don't
Yep.
my dump trailer's sitting here, so excuse me, I'd rather
put to work.
You know, I'd rather get a little bit of money coming in, towards, that it comes in my pocket than charging, $150 for a delivery fee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd rather get the 60, 70, $80 just for 30-minute drive. I'm not doing anything anyway.
Goran,
So,
Goran lawn care and trees and junk removal.
and junk removal delivery service. But I'm looking to get another lawn crew on, as I'm coming up to with having 79 clients at the end of last year. I'm planning on hitting 100 for one crew, and then starting up another crew and getting the next 100. No, whether that take a year, 3 years, at least I know there's going to be, expansion there, as well as once I'm known a little bit better, for tree work, in the area. Eventually, I'm going to be picking up another tractor. I should say not another, but a tractor. With a grapple, so that way I can do cleanups right away, as opposed to subbing that out like I do right now. And get a separate tree crew going and whatnot, and just see wherever it takes me.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I see you're a natural leader, good at sales, and definitely have a good disposition to be, an entrepreneur, juggling hats, doing marketing. So you guys are doing well.
So actually, I have two sons. One 16 and one 6. My 6-year-old, I gave him a John Deere rider. Actually, my second mower that I had, since then I've grown up and got zero turns and whatnot. But I gave him my John Deere rider, and he was actually driving around the neighborhood and picking up clients, and doing estimates.
Yeah. You have slave labor. You got to utilize that.
Yeah, well, it's not slave labor, but just seeing him trying to follow his dad's footsteps and doing the sales, getting his name out there, and when he talks about it, he's just so passionate about it. Dad, when can we get me business cards? Dad, when can we get me shirts? I need, I already got, and he's supposedly, he's in first grade, so he supposedly already has 2 or 3 kids in his class that he's brought on to as his crew. So just by him talking about it, that tells me that he's in a great position right off the bat. Now my other son, my 16-year-old, he lives with his mother in Ohio, and his stepfather, he's an electrical engineer. So he's actually following his footsteps and doing the electrical engineer, and he's doing basketball right now. He's the center for Piketon Red Streaks up in Ohio. Cool. So yeah, he's I
should have been a center, Goran. I'm 6'9", and I played volleyball professionally back in the day. But yeah, everybody's like, play basketball.
Yeah. But no, yeah, he's doing good. He's gonna be doing good too. So at least I know, no matter what, I can get my boys set up for my end game. When I plan on retiring when I'm 60 and not 65, it is a fact that none of my family on my dad's side lives longer than 62. So I want to be at least retired for a couple years before kicking the bucket, how we should say.
Yeah, so you're raising some real men. They're not transitioning to become women yet. They're still real men out there. There's a lot of kids that are lazy, making jokes, but it's a lot of kids are lazy and they don't want to do real work. So
right.
You as a father that they're wanting to follow somewhat in your footsteps. So
right. And I was born in Chicago, and with how my parents raised me, because I'm first generation here in the United States. My mom came when she was 16 in 1970 or 14. My dad came in 1979 or 1980, and they were here until about 5 years ago.
Yep.
Five, six, about yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, 6 years ago. They moved
Okay.
back to. They retired, moved back to the country, old country, and whatnot. My sister is out there with she was born here in the States as well, and they just retired and went back. My dad passed away a year later,
Yep.
and my mom's currently trying to figure out what she wants to do, if she wants to come back here or stay there. But she's coming to visit at least,
Hmm.
so that way we get to see her. But she's 70 years old,
Yep.
and with how they were brought up, I was brought up the same way with those. Um, if you want it, go work for it. You know what I mean? Um, nobody's gonna give you a handout. Maybe a little bit of help here and there, but
Hmm.
I was raised how I say the old school way.
Hmm.
You got to work hard in order to play hard,
Yep.
and that's exactly where I'm at right now.
That's great. That's great. Very cool. And we did some door tag hangers for one of our clients, and picked a font that looked really like, it was really hard to find a font for these door tag hangers that looks like it's cursive handwritten, and then we
Right,
printed them up in blue. So yeah, I think if you got the six, the young guy, get him on the e-bike and just door to
right,
door, yeah.
right. Right. I mean,
And
even if it's just in a couple blocks around the house, by
yeah,
him, jumping on the John Deere and just driving around, people see him. People know him already.
yeah,
Him and my wife, they take a walk every single day, and
that's
so
awesome.
they're like, "Hey, AJ, how are you?" and whatnot. So, and when they see him on the tractor, especially two neighbors down, they're just building a house, and the guy and the owner, he's like, "Hey, why don't you come over here and give me an estimate?" And
Yeah,
and my son's like, "But it's not green. It's not growing." He's like, "But I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna need an estimate on how much it's gonna cost me for you to mow this, every week or every 2 weeks."
yeah,
So it was just, I mean, it was so pleasing,
mm,
that he ran home. He left his John Deere out there and everything. He ran home. He
yeah,
couldn't wait to tell me that he got his first estimate.
that's
Even
awesome.
though there wasn't any pricing involved, but it's just having him do that step.
Yeah,
Meeting up with the client. That was just, it was heartwarming and satisfying to know that he's not going to be, and no offense to anybody that can make it, as a YouTuber, or um, he's not going to be, just another statistic like that, because let's face it, I don't know what the statistics are, but for every one YouTuber that makes it, there's probably a
yep,
100,000 that don't.
yep, yep, exactly, exactly. Yeah, very cool. Well, really cool to hear about your story growing the biz, to hear about your family, and yeah, pretty cool. And so if you're in the Inverness area, did I say that right? In
Inverness,
Florida,
Inverness, correct.
Inverness, yeah, Goran's Lawn Care and Trees. People, you're active on Facebook. People can find you.
Correct. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Yelp. I'm on Nextdoor.
Yep.
Pretty much all the platforms,
Okay.
as well as on Facebook. I have my own Facebook page, Goran's Lawn Care and Trees. You can look us up, or if you're on any one of the local pages, I'm sure you've seen, between me and my wife putting my business card out there, I'm sure you've seen or
Yeah.
interacted with us at one point or another.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, really stoked you came on the podcast. Yeah, cool hearing your story. And
Pleasure to be here.
yeah, keep up all the good work.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Okay, see you, Gordon.
Yeah, bye bye.